Namaste dear students. I am B.G.Shinde sir and we are discussing chapter number 3, kinetic theory of gases and radiation. Today's lecture number 8 and today's topic is absorption, reflection and transmission of heat radiation. Means in last 7 lectures we have finished the topic kinetic theory of gases, and after this lecture there will be topics of radiation. In previous standards we have studied about the 3 modes of transfer of the heat. There are 3 modes of the transfer of the heat, and first mode is a conduction. It will require material medium to travel heat from one point to another point. Means this is one way. Then second is convection. This is the second way to transfer the heat from one point to another point. It also requires material medium to travel heat from one point to another point. Now there is a third mode which is called radiation. Radiation is the process in which there is a transfer of the heat from one point to the another point without material medium, and there is a emission of the heat energy from the surface of the body, and that emission of the heat is because of the thermal energy inside the body, and that emission is in the form of electromagnetic waves, and that is radiation. So radiation happens when the body contains thermal energy and there is a emission of the energy from the surface of the body, and that emission of the body from the surface from its surface is in the form of electromagnetic waves, and this is radiation. So radiation is the process in which there is a transfer of the heat from one point to another point in the form of electromagnetic waves. So radiations means heat can be transferred in the form of by using radiation without any material medium, and the heat can travel through the vacuum also, and therefore from sun to the earth we get the heat. It is good example of radiation of the heat energy, radiation of the thermal energy from sun to the earth. There is a vacuum between sun and earth, there is no material medium, and even then radiation travels from sun to the earth, or heat energy travels from sun to the earth. That is example of the radiation. So radiation is the process of emission of the heat energy in the form of electromagnetic waves, and from the body at high temperature to the lower temperature. So that is also called the thermal radiation. So thermal radiation is the process of emission of the heat in the form of electromagnetic waves from the body at high temperature to the body at lower temperature, or to the surrounding at lower temperature. So this is meaning of the thermal radiation. The thermal radiation म्हणजे काय असतं की जेव्हा एखाद्या वस्तूमधून जास्त टेम्परेचर असलेल्या वस्तूमधून कमी टेम्परेचर असलेल्या सराउंडिंग कडे जेव्हा इलेक्ट्रोमॅग्नेटिक वेव्स या रेडिएट होतात तर त्याला म्हणायचं आहे थर्मल रेडिएशन. That process is called the thermal radiation. So this is meaning of the radiation. हा रेडिएशनचा अर्थ आहे. हे सर्व रेडिएशन किंवा हे जे थ्री जे मोड्स आहेत, 3 मोड्स ऑफ द ट्रान्सफर ऑफ द हीट, हे आपण मागच्या 9वी 10वी किंवा 8वीमध्ये याचा किंवा 11वीमध्ये पण त्याचा आपण अभ्यास केलेला असतो किंवा आपल्याला माहिती असतं. तर हा जो टॉपिक आहे, याच्या पुढचे सर्व जे टॉपिक आहेत ते सर्व रेडिएशनवर आधारित असतील. ऑल द टॉपिक्स आफ्टर दिस विल बी बेस्ड ऑन द रेडिएशन. सो dear students, listen this lecture up to end, and also tell your friends about this lecture. Subscribe this YouTube channel. Now let us continue this lecture. Means now suppose there is a thermal radiation. Incident on some substance. Suppose that Q is the quantity of thermal heat or quantity of thermal energy, thermal radiation, which is incident on some substance. Suppose that total Q amount of thermal radiation is incident on any substance. Then some part of this energy which is incident on this substance will get absorbed. Means some part will get absorbed, and the quantity of radiant energy which is absorbed by this substance is suppose QA. Then some part will get reflected. Means some part of the energy, some part of the thermal radiation will get reflected, and suppose it is denoted by QR, and some part will be transmitted through the body. Means some part of the heat radiation will be transmitted throughout the body, and suppose that radiant energy or that radiant heat which is transmitted by the body is suppose QT. Means any body in the nature has this property. If some radiations are incident, then if radiation is incident, thermal radiation is incident on some body, then some radiant energy will be absorbed, some radiant energy will get reflected, and some radiant energy will get transmitted. It means that total radiant energy which is supplied to the body should be equal to radiant energy absorbed by the body plus radiant energy reflected by the body plus radiant energy transmitted through the body. Means total radiant energy, total heat which is incident on the substance will be equal to QA plus QR plus QT. So it should be total QA plus QR plus QT. Now let us define one factor which is called the coefficient of absorption. It is also called absorptivity or absorptive power. It is denoted by A. Now coefficient of absorption of a body at a given temperature is defined as the ratio of quantity of heat absorbed by the body to the quantity of radiant heat which is incident on that body. So we can write QA. This is the quantity of radiant energy absorbed by the body divided by Q. So quantity of radiant energy absorbed divided by radiant energy incident. So this is definition this is the formula of the coefficient of absorption. It is also called the absorptivity and it is also called absorptive power of the body. म्हणजे एखाद्या वस्तूवर जर हीट इन्सिडेंट केली तर त्या वस्तूने किती प्रमाणात हीट ॲब्सॉर्ब केलेली असेल तर त्याला म्हणतात कोएफिशियंट ऑफ ॲब्सॉर्प्शन किंवा त्याला म्हणायचं आहे ॲब्सॉर्प्टिव्हिटी. जर समजा कोएफिशियंट ऑफ ॲब्सॉर्प्शन एखाद्या वस्तूचा जर जास्त असेल तर ती वस्तू जास्त प्रमाणात हीट ॲब्सॉर्ब करते आणि कमी प्रमाणात हीट रिफ्लेक्ट आणि ट्रान्समिट करत असते. सो दिस इज फर्स्ट coefficient, it is called the coefficient of absorption. Then second coefficient is coefficient of reflection or it is reflectance. Coefficient of reflection is defined as the ratio of radiant energy or radiant heat reflected by the body to the radiant energy which is incident on the body is called coefficient of reflection or it is also called the reflectivity. So reflectivity will be Q R is equal to Q R divided by Q. So this is the formula of the reflectivity. So suppose some body has more large value of R, then it will reflect more light and it will absorb less light or it will absorb less amount of the heat. So this is meaning of the reflectivity, the ratio of the amount of radiant energy which is reflected by the body to the radiant energy which is incident on that body is called the coefficient of reflection. It is also called the reflectance. Then there is a third coefficient T. It is called the coefficient of transmission or it is also called the transmittance. It is denoted by T. Coefficient of transmission is defined as the ratio of the quantity of heat which is transmitted by the body to the quantity of heat which is incident upon that body. That ratio is called the transmittance or it is also called the coefficient of transmission. So the ratio of the amount of radiant energy which is transmitted by the body to the amount of radiant energy which is incident upon that body, that ratio is called coefficient of transmission or it is also called the transmittance. So this is the definition of the transmittance. Now suppose we divide this equation on both sides by Q. So this will be Q upon Q is equal to QA upon Q plus QR upon Q plus QT upon Q. Means divide this equation on both sides by Q. Now Q upon Q will be 1 equal to Q A upon Q. QA upon Q is equal to A plus QR upon Q is equal to R. So this is R and QT upon Q is equal to T. So A plus R plus T is always equal to 1. So the addition of all the coefficients for a given body it should be always 1. म्हणजे कोणत्याही एखाद्या वस्तूसाठी हे जे हीट रेडिएशनचे किंवा थर्मल रेडिएशनचे हे जे कोएफिशियंटची जी ॲडिशन आहे ती नेहमी 1 पाहिजे. देन द युनिट्स देर इज नो युनिट and there is no dimensions. No units and no dimensions to A, R and T. All these three have no units and no dimensions because they are the ratio of the same physical quantities and so they have no units and no dimensions. So that's all for about today's lecture. We see remaining part in next lecture. Do study at home. हे पूर्ण लेक्चर तुम्ही लिहून घ्या, आपल्या नोटबुकवर नोट्स लिहा आणि याच्यावर आधारित जे प्रश्न आहेत त्यांची उत्तरं लिहा. थँक्यू व्हेरी मच.